Hello, welcome to the Property Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is our post-budget special episode. We're going to talk about all of the announcements that we heard the Finance Minister make that might have an impact on your ability to buy a home over the next 1 year. Before we go into actually discussing all of those announcements, here's a quick look at everything that was said in the budget that will impact you.
The real estate industry, which had pinned high hopes on the union budget for the revival of this sector out of the slump, welcomed some of the proposals of the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, but was mostly disappointed as there were no direct measures announced to boost the sector. The Finance Minister allocated 22,407 crore for housing development in the country, which will involve construction of 2 crore urban and 4 crore rural housing units across the country to fulfill the vision of housing for all by 2022. Other major announcement was REITs. The rental income earned by REITs will be considered as a pass-through and will be taxable in the hands of unit holders. On the infrastructure front, there was an allocation of 70,000 crore rupees for its development, and Finance Minister also reintroduced the tax-free infra bonds for road and rail companies. The announcement for establishing a national infra fund of 20,000 crore rupees is also positive for the sector. One of the major disappointments to the real estate sector was the proposal to increase service taxes from 12% to 14%. Experts believe this move will result in an increase in property prices. With no mention to low-cost and affordable housing, the Finance Minister also excluded the 100 Smart City project in the budget.
Alright, so remember, if you have any questions about the budget, you can write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen, and you can reach me personally on Twitter as well. I have a wonderful panel in the studio this week. Lalit Kumar Jain is the Chairman Managing Director of Kumar Urban Development. He's also the Chairman at CREDAI. Lalit, thank you for coming in. Rohit Gera, MD at Gera Developers. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming in. We did get a sense in the beginning that the real estate industry was disappointed because even though the Finance Minister said that building a home for every Indian family is top priority, he didn't tell us how it was going to happen. Did you expect a little more in terms of low-cost housing, low-income housing, some more indication?
See, it was a great disappointment because the hopes were high. So what I see, there is a long-term vision, there is a mid-term action, but they have forgotten the short-term action. See, housing kickstarts the growth. Now, if affordable housing, which is 90% of that entire component of 2.5 crore, need a push, so tax benefit and home loan thrust. So what were our demands? Come out with special tax-free housing bond. Said they did it for infra bond. They could have done it for housing because my home loan rate is 10.25% now. Buyers can't afford it. It has to be 7%. Plus minus. Second, you are talking of affordable. Now, affordable 4 times or 5 times your annual income. So, you have to make houses which come within that budget. Now, unless you reduce cost, now what are the 3 important costs? One is tax, second is approval cost, and third is land cost. He says 4 crore rural and 2 crore urban houses to be built by 2022.
Yes.
A $1 trillion game. Even if we talk about only urban houses, it's 1/3 of that amount. How is it coming? What is bringing it? Who will bring it and how it will happen? So, let me tell you, 2022 is a non-starter. Maybe 2030 is the target, a practical target. But where is the beginning?
I want to bring Rohit in here. We know that the government keeps talking about a home for every Indian. We know that the government has not, and it keeps talking about PPPs as well, but there hasn't been a conversation per se with the private sector in terms of construction of let's get together and build these 60 million homes that we will need in the next 7 years. Do you think at all that the government can do it without the help of the private sector in terms of construction right now?
It is absolutely, completely, totally impossible for the government to build these 6 crore homes If they could have, by now we would have seen it happen. There have been there are in fact even today, numerous entities, numerous corporations, if you will, Mahada for example,
yes.
and all of these across the country have not been successful in getting those homes out to the urban poor, to the rural poor. They've just completely failed.
We are not even talking quality here, we're just talking quantity.
We're just talking quantity, and so it's absolutely impossible to do this without engaging with the private sector, and unfortunately we haven't seen a whole lot of that having happened this time around.
You know, the other thing that was really disappointing for me was the mention or the lack of the mention of urban development per se, in terms of urban renewal, urban development. How are we going to, let's leave smart cities for another discussion. The fact that our cities right now are not smart at all, and the fact that we're not doing anything to make them smarter, do you think that's a massive miss as well?
See, I'll tell you, you are right. They have completely missed on urban issues. And again, I think it is failure of the respective ministry to highlight this issue. This is my blunt opinion, because I have been very vocal on this. And unless the concerned ministry take it up with finance ministry and prime minister, things don't happen.
Rohit, from someone, I mean, you function primarily out of Pune right now, but you're also looking at other cities. In terms of building, in terms of construction, in terms of clearances, what kind of challenges do you face on a daily basis?
So I'm glad you asked that. We talk about, Make in India, we talk about ease of doing business, and we say how India is 142 on the list. But if you delve a little bit deeper into that list, you'll see that the most important thing for us is getting construction permits. And when you look at that factor, we are not 142. Out of 189 countries, we're at 184 on getting construction permits. This is a problem that's not just in the city of Pune or in Maharashtra. This is a nationwide problem. 184th most difficult country in the world to get construction permits. How do we expect a boost in terms of getting 6 crore, 1 crore homes to be built?
You know, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second. When the finance minister did mention the fact that we're considering now plug-and-play power plants, is it possible at all that something like that can be extended to the real estate sector?
It is possible.
It's certainly possible. I think it takes. It's going to require something like they're bringing about for the black money, to handle black money, and I think that that's a really good thing that they're doing. So you have to bring in very stringent punishment for those who go off the straight and narrow path. So make it easy, put trust on the developers, but yet then have a very, very strong stick policy as well, and at the same time, go ahead and incentivize them to go more, go further, go faster.
If you were to, simple solution to this. See, why problems in real estate happen? Because there is restrictive FSI norms. Remove this nonsensical concept, automatically everything is transparent. Then what else you require? You require building to building distance, you require road to building distance, you require parking to total built area. 3-4 norms can govern the entire regulation. Then where is the question? And trust developers. They are here to work for generations. Once they are in the business, trust them to do their business, they will do much better, much cheaper, and excellence will creep in, and this whole nonsense will go off, of course. Till electioneering cost and till this approval system exists, please don't talk of removal of black money.
Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide on ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. Our guest is still with us, and we have one more guest right now. Ravi has just joined in. Ravi, thank you for joining us. We were talking about the fact that we did feel that the finance minister missed out urban development, and he did miss out low-cost housing in the budget. But the other thing that I want to bring up is REITs. This is something that the industry was looking forward to for a while. If we look at the fine print of the pass-through that's been offered right now, it does insist that the property in question be owned directly by the REITs. We don't know what it will mean if it's owned by SPV, for example, that is owned by the REITs. Do you think that this was enough? Will this be enough to see REITs hit the ground?
Two things are remaining now. The dividend distribution tax, because globally, dividend distribution tax is rationalized. So here, this budget is silent on that. I think they will have to rationalize it. And second thing is a state level stamp duty. These two are important elements that they need to do. So I think then that will at least kickstart the whole thing.
Ravi, how long do you think it's going to take before we actually see REITs now?
No, I think REITs are going to now take off. The main primary issue has been kind of handled, which is the transfer of assets into REIT and the rationalization of capital gains tax at the hands of the sponsors. So that was a key ask, and that has come about. So I think REITs will take off. But like Lalitji said, the other aspects to make returns more attractive, because eventually, if you know investors or end users who invest in mutual funds, right? They also have a lot of tax incentives. If they hold the mutual funds beyond 12 months, then why would you want to only have a pass-through on the rental income only for the owned assets? That's on this side of the REIT trust. What about the other side? If they hold the REIT for long-term, and real estate is a long-term play, and for that matter, you must have tax incentives.
No, I also want to ask you this. Now, give me an indication of what you think REITs will earn as an yield. When we're talking about commercial property, we know that right now it's what, 3 to 5%, maybe a little more than that in really good locations. So if I'm a regular mutual fund investor and my options are between a fixed deposit and an equity mutual fund, why would I choose this?
For two reasons. And I think we need to then delve into real estate asset classes to understand what would be the return. So if you're looking at residential asset class, you're right, 2, 3, 4% would be the rental income. But if you look at the office asset class, which easily can yield between 8 sometimes to 11%. Having said that, to my mind, the capital appreciation, long-term capital appreciation adds to the color of the investment here, which FDs and others don't.
So my concern as far as REITs are concerned is that you'll have a few REITs which will take off, but for it to make any real meaningful difference, I think we need to see advantages for people to jump in and put their money into real estate investment trusts.
From where we are right now, what will REITs mean to the industry in terms of cash flowing in terms of all of the problems that you've had with raising money so far? Will REITs be the answer to all of that?
No. See, commercial properties are a small part of the entire housing industry. So if housing industry is at 4 lakh crore, this is somewhere between 50 to 80,000 crore. So it's a small aspect but important aspect. Only the commercial properties are in few hands. So it doesn't really cut across the market operators. So it's a small but important element. But it can't make a sea change.
All right, it can't make a sea change. But we did see, of course, like we played out at the beginning of the show, we did see that, that tax pass-through come in the budget. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. We're talking about how the union budget would impact our investments as home buyers and real estate investors. Lalit, I want to come to you about this. We brought it up a little earlier in the first segment, but we didn't have time to talk about it. Regulation, the fact that we were looking forward to having a real estate regulator. For me, the fact that mutual funds with an average investment of 1,000 rupees is so heavily regulated and a home is not regulated. How long is it going to be before the regulator comes in, and are you happy with the current bill or the format in which the bill is being...
Hopefully, a regulatory bill will be tabled this time with modifications. It is already before Rajya Sabha, but now government is modifying it post the Standing Committee on Real Estate report. However, I am not sure, but here say if it does not accommodate all stakeholders, if it does not facilitate business, if it is only policing of developers, and if there is a discretion of granting you the license, of revoking the license, of taking over the projects, then I think we are in for a big trouble. The entire industry will go haywire, the costs will go up, and I think good operators, good developers may exit the business.
Rohit, there was a lot of talk also about ease of doing business in the budget. Did any of it translate to perhaps something that would impact the industry or someone who's functioning like you? Do you think that at some point that ease of doing business will trickle down as well to the housing industry?
Well, one can always hope. But thus far, nothing in this budget for sure as far as the real estate sector is concerned. really the two or three biggest areas for us include the approval process, by and large a state and a local subject. The one area which I believe they are looking at is the environment laws, and that has been a bugbear in many states. That is starting to ease up. So I think that there are changes, but from the budget, not a whole hell of a lot that one can hope for at all.
Another thing I want to bring up with you, service tax.
Yeah.
Higher service tax on apartments or homes that are under construction, which is only going to get worse now. How bad is this for the industry?
Oh, it is. You see, from 12 to 14, 12 point something to 14 is direct hike.
Yes.
Also, if you see surcharge on fuel, etc., and fuel prices going up, has cascading effect. So this budget has definitely increased cost of housing. So one is no soaps, but it has directly impacted housing with higher costs.
Look, the service tax impact is clearly between, and if you add that the Swachh Bharat cess,
Yes,
which they want to
yes,
add on,
yes.
it's good, and that's not on the tax, that's on the taxable service. So you're talking 14 going to 16. So 12.36 going to 16, and then 25 or 30%, depending on your size of home, it's 0.9% or 1% increase in the total cost to the consumer.
Plus cascading effect.
For the viewer to understand, it's not just when I buy from you, the fact that you have to pay service tax to each and every one of your vendors.
That's right.
So somebody who put in the window panes and someone
But
who
there
put in
is
the tiles.
sunlight
And
for
All of that. But one does get some set-offs for that.
There are set-offs.
You do get the set-offs for that. So ultimately, the net big cost as far as the consumer is concerned, it's a 1% increase. And
That's a lot of money.
Exactly. The consumer is fighting for every single rupee, his own contribution. RBI's norms say that the taxes cannot be factored into his own contribution. So the customer's pocket then gets pinched even more. He has to have that much more of his own money to contribute. And that just pushes his decision and his timeline to buy the home further away.
You know what is most unfortunate about this conversation? We're not even talking about affordable and low income right now. We're just talking
Very
about
unfortunate.
we're talking about middle
Yeah,
income and
All
upper
homes.
end. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, point is, this time a common man seeking house, wanting to own a house, didn't have any announcement, didn't have any reprieve. I think this was very disappointing. We expected that on EWS and LIG housing, there would be extremely good tax haven kind of situation, which did not happen. Affordable housing would have got direct tax benefits. That did not happen. And home loan interest rate did not come down.
All right, so let's do this. Let's put it out there right now for the finance minister, the urban development minister who are watching. If you were to make a suggestion, and I want each of you to make a suggestion, to kickstart this industry and, of course, to manage to build maybe even half of the 60 million homes that we want in the next 7 years, what would that suggestion be?
First, reduce home loan interest rate. RBI will do it over a period of time. We cannot wait that long. We have actually wasted 5 years. Let us not waste a single day. Home loan rates have to come down. Second, there has to be impetus for developers to develop such schemes. So bring the cost down. How do you bring the cost down? First, give tax concession. That is the first thing that they have to do, is give tax benefit for affordable housing. Then make tax haven for EWS and LIG housing. Third, ease of business, online, single window, human-less approval process.
So preferential rates on mortgages and tax stops for builders who are going to focus on that income group. What would you suggest?
So I have two very specific suggestions. One is first home buyers or single home buyers, incentivize them. Whatever is their interest payment for the next 5 years, if you permit 2x that deduction, it straight away brings down interest rates from 10% to 7%. The second one is, you have the entire process set up for special economic zones. Piggyback on the same system and just do special residential zones. I think just these two things would completely kickstart real estate as well as the economy with that.
Ravi?
So a couple of things, just to add on the special residential zone. I've particularly spoken on ET now about that aspect, so I'm glad he brought it up. But very clearly on the SEZ part, the DDT and the MAT, make it so unviable because developers started off with a clear tax benefit or relief and suddenly these were brought in. So a change in policy plays havoc with the project cost and the project vision eventually. ATIB is the second suggestion, which we thought probably affordable housing could have attracted. The tax haven Lalitji spoke about. And third is the input cost to a developer. How can the government work hand in hand with the industry, with the stakeholders? Maybe, I don't know how GST may impact, or eventually bringing down the commodity prices, input cost, because without that, it is impossible for the developers to pass on the pricing benefit to the consumer.
One thing which I missed is the infrastructure status for this industry itself, because we are not getting funded. When market is in slowdown mode, we get stressed, project gets delayed. Now, you cannot say that, all right, time is bad, we don't care. Either you arrange fund or you wait for projects to complete over a period of time till you sell. So very important is rollover system which is available to industry and infrastructure has to be there.
So that's the gist of it. The real estate industry was all dressed up last Saturday and was completely stood up by the finance minister. There was nothing there for the industry, but great suggestions that we hope the government is listening to. Preferential interest rates for first home buyers, tax subs for developers who are looking at low-income housing. We have to build those homes and they're going to have to be done together. A special residential zone, that's a great idea as well. Of course, we're right here. If you have questions about anything you heard on the budget, we'll answer your questions on the Property Guide. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending time with us this week. Remember, you can reach us. You can reach me on Twitter. You can reach us on email. Thank you so much for watching.